Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute ultimate blueprint for mastering the Cambridge IGCSE English as a Second Language Paper 1 exam. If you are prepping to sit for this assessment, you probably already know it demands way more than just a basic understanding of English. It requires strategy, precision, and an intimate knowledge of exactly how the test is built from the ground up. We are going to explore the official guidelines and specimen materials together so you can walk into that exam room with total confidence. We've taken the official learner guide and distilled it into a neat, 4-part strategy for you. We'll be looking at demystifying the exam, mastering the reading exercises, tackling the writing tasks, and finally, rounding out with some key strategies for success. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. Demystifying the exam. Let's understand the basics.
So if you're taking Syllabus 0510, Paper 1 actually makes up a massive 70% of your total qualification. That is a huge chunk of your final grade. And honestly, that's exactly why mastering this specific paper is an absolute game changer. Obviously, Paper 2, the listening part, is still super important at 30%, but Paper 1, that's really where the battle is won or lost. It's all about testing your ability to pull out specific facts, organize text, and communicate accurately. When you sit down on exam day and fill in that candidate box on the front cover, there are a few strict rules you need to know. You have exactly 2 hours on the clock to earn 60 marks across 6 different exercises. And here's the kicker. You can only use a black or dark blue pen. Literally, absolutely no erasable ink, no correction fluid, and no dictionaries allowed. That means your vocabulary and your prep have to be razor sharp well before that timer starts. Moving on to Section 2, Mastering the Reading Exercises. We're going to conquer comprehension across those first 4 exercises.
Now, if there's one concept the Learner Guide highlights over and over again, it's the critical importance of synonyms. Why? Well, because the test makers are actively trying to challenge you. They are almost never going to use the exact same phrasing in the reading text as they do in the questions. So, if a passage talks about the advantages of something, the question is probably going to ask for the benefits. You've got to be constantly translating those questions into a bunch of different synonyms in your head while you read.
To systematically tackle these reading passages, you really want to use this 3-step strategy straight from the Learner Guide. First up, just read the text quickly to get the gist, the main idea of each paragraph. Step 2, look at the questions and physically underline the key question words. Think where for a place, how for a method, or why for a reason. And finally, Step 3, scan the text specifically for those synonyms we just talked about. This highly targeted approach is going to save you from wasting precious time rereading the whole passage word for word.
And you really have to be ready for a massive contrast in topics, too. The specimen paper shows us that 1 minute you might be analyzing a deeply factual article about desert lithops, which are these crazy living stone plants. And then literally by exercise 3, you're categorizing notes on the modern trend of living in transportable tiny homes. It's wild. Mental agility is absolutely key here. You need to be ready to completely shift gears across totally different subjects in a matter of minutes.
So what's the golden rule for these short answer and note-making tasks? Keep your answers brief. The Learner Guide explicitly tells us that you do not need to write full sentences for exercises 1 and 3. In fact, copying short, accurate phrases straight from the text is exactly what they want you to do. Writing too much is just going to burn through your 2-hour time limit. And worse, it increases the risk of slipping up with wrong details or grammar mistakes that could actually cost you points. Just keep it short, sharp, and accurate.
All right, Section 3, Tackling the Writing Tasks. Let's master exercises 5 and 6.
It is so vital to grasp the structural and tonal differences between these two. Exercise 5 asks for an informal email to a friend or someone you know really well. So you want to sound conversational. On the flip side, Exercise 6 demands a much more formal register. You might be asked to write an article, an essay, a review, or a formal report. The language there has to be elevated. Think formal linking words and a clear, objective tone. Mixing up these two styles is a super common pitfall, and you definitely want to avoid it. Let's zoom in on Exercise 5. You'll usually get a prompt, for instance, explaining a problem with an online purchase to a buddy. You're being evaluated on both content and language here. Now, to secure all 6 of your content marks, you absolutely have to hit all 3 bullet points they give you in the prompt. If you forget to explain why you bought the item or what you're going to do about the problem, your content score will take a hit. And that happens regardless of how beautiful or perfect your English might be. Then we hit the formal writing in Exercise 6.
You'll often be given these interactive speech bubbles with differing viewpoints. Maybe something about a school sports festival where one person says, "We spent too much time listening to instructions," while another says, "I learned a lot about fitness." Now, you don't have to use these specific quotes, but they are fantastic inspiration. They can really help you quickly structure your arguments, balance out the pros and cons, and come up with a rock-solid recommendation.
Across both of these writing tasks, you've got to strictly follow some fundamental rules to max out those language marks. First, aim for that sweet spot of 120 to 160 words. Second, always organize your ideas into clear paragraphs: intro, body, conclusion. Third, use linking words, especially things like firstly or to sum up for exercise 6. Fourth, triple check your spelling. And finally, please hear this one loud and clear: zero mobile texting slang. This is an English language test, and throwing in text abbreviations will heavily penalize your score for sure.
Which brings us to Section 4, Final Strategies for Success. Let's talk about maximizing your overall score.
I want you to really think about this number: 30 marks. Exercises 5 and 6 are worth 15 marks apiece. That means 30 marks, literally half of your entire score for this 2-hour exam, comes purely from your ability to write those two pieces right at the very end of the paper. A lot of students fall into the trap of agonizing over a 1-mark reading question in Exercise 1, and then they end up frantically rushing a 15-mark essay. You have got to budget your time heavily for the end of the paper, so you can give these writing tasks the attention they actually deserve.
At the end of the day, the execution of this blueprint is entirely in your hands. You know the rules now, you understand the differences in register, and you know exactly where the heavy points are hiding. So the ultimate question you have to answer before you walk into that exam room is this: how are you going to divide your 120 minutes to confidently master all 6 exercises, ensuring you don't leave your most valuable marks for those final frantic seconds?